Welcome to Foxgloves with MaimeriBlu watercolors and this special collaboration palette that we've created together. I'm Sarah Simon, the Mint Gardener, and this is a celebration of these stunning colors in one of my favorite flowers, both to grow and to paint. So notice I am using a flat wash brush, and I don't know who designed this magical brush, but it is 1000% made for foxglove blooms. You can see how my hand is holding the brush at an angle almost perpendicular to the paper. This is one of my favorite exercises, projects that I love to teach in my watercolor retreats and workshops, just because it is so user-friendly and how fun that you can do everything with one brush. And now you're going to see also me adding just one extra brush because we can, and it's fun. And it even helps us kind of isolate the colors more, and a celebration of the different types of marks that we can make. Okay, so you can see that I used my Naples yellow to make all of those lovely petals first. Contrary to what some people think, you don't actually want to make this primary stem until you've gotten all of your blossoms there. Now you're gonna get to see how amazing these green and blue colors are, or green and yellow colors, and also we'll have some blue, I'm sure, mixed in there too, but how beautiful they work together. So you can see that I'm using the Hooker's green. It has a smidge of the yellow mixed in as well. When I'm mixing my colors, I like to include pure pigments, and the pure pigment color that I have loved to use in almost all of my mixes is this Naples yellow. So I'm using the Hooker's green, but I've mixed in, you can see on my palette to the right, a little bit of that Naples yellow, which allows the green color of this stem to actually complement the blossoms even more than they originally did. So we're going to do 3 stalks of blossoms, and in varying colors, slowly increasing their saturation and building in midtones, which is again one of my favorite ways to explore palette. So I've gone back to my original palette that has the pure pigments of the permanent red deep, the titanium white, now just a smidge of it to make that really pretty pink. And you can see it's kind of floating in my little plate palette with a lot of water, okay? And when they are showing you that lovely brush stroke, slow and steady, and sometimes you don't get enough pigment on there, so you get to go over it and do it again. But when these colors are floating and flowing together, this is why I like to use plates or palettes that allow a large amount of water to kind of flow, because not only have we combined a little bit of the yellow with our green stem, now we're drawing a little bit of that yellow into our pink coral toned foxglove, okay? Pretty incredible that you're able to create this light of a pink with this set, which just speaks to the beauty of the Maimeri paints. These paints are designed for easy application, and you can see how they flow smoothly from brush to paper. And the company really does a really careful selection of the ingredients to focus on this smooth and consistent texture that also allows for just maximal mixing joy for all of us artists. This is primarily going to be our first wash on these foxgloves. I'll do another video showing you those secondary washes, but what we're trying to do right now is capture just the architecture of this plant. The blossoms always get a little bit smaller near the top. They're more like buds. They're not quite open. When they're fully open, they are shaped like bells. I like to think of them as tiny little fairy apartments. They're called florets. Each individual flower on the foxglove stalk is called a floret. And so now we're going to complement those florets and give them that structure. We've hinted at the architecture of the actual stalk and plant of the foxglove, but now we get to give it kind of its foundation. We get to hang it up, right? I am not drawing or painting a straight green line right down the center of my foxglove. If you ever have the privilege of growing a foxglove or seeing them grown in another's garden, or oftentimes in the wild, they do propagate themselves quite readily. Looking straight on, you never see the actual stalk fully from top to bottom. It's often covered in different little florets. Here's what you do when you get a little bit too much water. When I'm teaching watercolor, I don't like to hand a paper towel to people right away, because oftentimes we undo all of the beautiful work that we have worked so hard to get onto the paper because we doubt the process, okay? But I want you to see how I do use a paper towel just by using the very little edge of a paper towel and dropping it into a wash that maybe it looks a bit like a blister. I like to call it the biodome effect. Now you could absolutely leave those, and what you'll end up with is watercolor blooms. The paint and the water will kind of jumble around until the water is evaporated and the paint kind of forms these little blossoms or blooms inside the dried wash. So that's completely fine if you'd like to do that. But I also wanted you to see how I use a paper towel, since a lot of people end up having paper towels with them. Since using water on paper is kind of a wild experience, right? And so having that paper towel nearby is helpful, but also being open to where your piece wants to go. Now, I had a direction, right? I wanted to work from very lightest color florets of my foxgloves on the right to a darker. And now you can see I've added some of that dragon's blood into the permanent red, and I'm mixing it around and creating yet another darker mid-tone with this incredible collection of colors. Okay, you can see the variation in your florets. You can start with those clear washes like we talked about in our first video, or you can start with a floret that is brimming with saturated color right when you start. It's up to you, but we can always come back for more color. So if you're not sure if you really like deeply saturated paints and colors, you can always say, I'm going to start a little bit lighter and not quite so dense in saturation. And then you can build up colors successively in multiple layers. And that watercolor technique is called wet on dry. Right now, we're working with just simply washes and a little bit of wet in wet. You can see I have deepened my green stalk even a smidge more. So the middle stalk was again that incredible hooker's green with a little bit of the yellow, but I also added a little bit of Payne's gray to make a nice medium green tone. And now our florets on the far left are super dark. They're much darker than the ones on the right. So I have deepened the stalk even more by adding a bit more Payne's gray, okay? So just the smallest amounts of paint go such a long way, which is another reason I love MaimeriBlu paints. You don't need much to create a huge statement, but with these paints, because they have such a fabulous transparency, you don't need to use too much to create an impactful piece.